Hi everyone and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, or this morning, I've made it out to shoot the lighthouse again here at Godrevy. What a stunning morning it's already turning into. Beautiful pastel-y colours in the sky already, which is fantastic to wake up to and know that you've got clear conditions at least. Even though unfortunately turning the headland here where I can see the direction of the sun that's rising, unfortunately there looks like there's a little bit of haze on the horizon, which means that sunrise, even though it's due in about 20 to 30 minutes or so, it might be a little bit longer until I've got that lovely golden light cast onto the lighthouse, which is what I'm hopefully going to try and capture this morning. I've already got one image set up and ready to go, so hopefully that one will work out all right and many more will come. So let's see what I come up with. For the first image, what I've got set up here is the camera in landscape orientation with one of the guide rails here that's stopping you walking too far off the edge of the cliff, so I'm quite thankful of that, particularly walking up here in the dark. Even though I've got the head torch on, you don't want to obviously stray too far off the actual path. Anyway, for this composition I'm looking in the direction where hopefully the sun will be rising shortly, but it's working out to be lovely sort of pastel-y colours, lovely oranges and pinks within the sky, which hopefully I'll be able to capture. So the camera I've set up at f11 ISO 50 and taken a bracketed image. Base image though is 5 seconds and then letting the camera do its obviously exposures from there. But what I've actually really quite like is the light is catching this side of the guide rail and obviously bending off and bearing down to point towards the edge of the sea, and then obviously along the cliff line as well up to the colours in the background. So yeah, it's hopefully going to work out really quite well for this composition, and obviously having the bracketed images, because of the dynamic range that I've obviously got within this scene, I'll be able to stitch them together in Lightroom and Photoshop and hopefully work out really quite well. So first image, hopefully capture some more. Always handy when you turn around and you find another composition straight away. And literally that's what I've done here. I've set up you as the vlogging camera, looked around at this composition and thought, actually, yeah, that's really well worth taking that image. So pretty similar situation to the image I had first off. This one though, with the guide rail leading off on the left hand side, bending round and pretty much pointing plumb line in with the lighthouse as well. Having the camera as far over as I have to the actual guide rail here as well is exposing some of the side of this cliff top here as well, as it's obviously disappearing down into the edge of the sea. So that's obviously adding to the composition really nicely, and also the direction that I'm looking in now with the lights behind you is obviously lighting up this side of the cliff top really nicely. So yeah, always pays to look in the opposite direction sometimes, and definitely this time it has worked out. Next composition, only walked about 10 meters or so from the first two compositions and come up with another one, which is fantastic really, isn't it? So with this one, again keeping the wide angle lens that I've got, 17mm to 40 on the camera this morning, because I really wanted to sort of capture as much of the colour in the sky as possible. Unfortunately though, it really does look like those clear conditions that were forecast are not actually going to happen in reality. However though, that doesn't stop me from doing my photography. It's a dry, fantastic morning. It's the last shoot that I'm going to be doing down here in Cornwall this year. I've got to make the most of it. I made the effort to get up early, come to this fantastic location. You just want to try and capture it as best you possibly can. And hopefully with this composition I have. So with the lighthouse as the main subject, even though at 17mm it's quite small within the frame, a lot of the frame is being filled up by this rock in the foreground, which is really quite interesting with all the textures and colour and detail within it that's being picked up in the side of the light, which is behind you, and also the light that's cast onto the lighthouse as well. Again, obviously with the light coming from your side of the image is going to be lit up, and obviously the left hand side of the image of the lighthouse is going to be in slight shadow. So hopefully, yeah, work out really quite nicely on this one. This one I haven't bracketed the image. Base image is f11 ISO 50 and 1.3 seconds as the exposure. However, what I have done, because of that distance and obviously what the perspective the lens gives, I have focus stacked. So I've focused on the end of the rock, and then I'll focus again onto the lighthouse and taken two images that I'll blend together in Lightroom when I get back to the computer. As I was walking around earlier, I saw this bench down here and thought definitely that is the spot I want to be at when I need my coffee. And yeah, definitely need it this morning, waking up early, particularly when you're away on holiday, which is when you're supposed to be resting and staying in bed. But when you've got conditions like this, only a 10 to 15 minute drive away from where you're staying, and it's over 350 miles away from home, you've got to make the most of it when you're actually out here, haven't you? Now I think the sun is just rising above that bank of haze on the horizon, so once I've had a couple more sips of my coffee, I'll see if I can come up with another composition. So with the light getting even better now onto the actual lighthouse, I've changed lenses over to the 24 to 105mm lens. Got it slightly angled down as I wanted to get a little bit of foreground interest, which is some of the bottom of the cliffs as the waves are crashing up against that and getting some really enjoyable features of the waves there. And obviously the lovely colour that's being cast now onto the actual lighthouse, which is working out really quite well. So settings for the camera, f11 again, ISO 50, bracketing the image as well. And yeah, as the sun's rising, it's a good half an hour, 45 minutes after it's actually risen or supposed to have risen. So now the light's being cast onto the lighthouse, and that's working out really quite nice as a composition. But what an enjoyable coffee I've had this morning looking at this view. So after having a bit more coffee after that last composition, I've decided to put the polarizer on the front just to bring out that lovely colour of the lighthouse, which is working out really lovely now. But what it's allowing me to do with closing the aperture down to f/16 is extend the shutter speed ever so slightly to 0.3 of a second, which is working out really quite nicely. With the camera in vertical orientation, as you can see, I've got some of the rocks in the foreground right down there that are obviously getting covered by the incoming tide. High tide is around about 8:30-ish, give or take. Double check on the app because I'm not going to be going down there anyway. But what I'm liking about it is the waves are obviously rolling across the top of the rocks there, and at about half a second to 0.3 of a second, it's creating that lovely sort of line across the actual top of the rock. So it's not sort of making it a complete misty, which you would get obviously on a long exposure, because I don't necessarily like that or want that for this composition. I do like it, don't want it for this composition though. So with the, as I say, polarizer on, bringing out obviously the lovely colours in the lighthouse, letting me extend the shutter speed slightly at f/16, working out really quite well. Now having the cable release on as well, just looking when the waves are obviously going to be rolling over the top of the actual rock in the foreground, and as the light's obviously increasing on it, and the lighthouse itself, as you can see, is white, it's obviously going to work out a little bit tricky to balance this image in respect of obviously not blowing out the highlight, which will be the lighthouse itself. So hopefully in some of the earlier images that I captured, and looking at the back of the histogram, it should be okay, but obviously I'll have to look at that better when I'm on the computer back at home. But yeah, it's working out really quite nicely, and just a location that I obviously want to shoot, that I want to capture all of these images, and hopefully will work out really well in the end. So ending my vlog here in Cornwall at Godrevy Lighthouse. What an amazing time I've had down here for the past 2 weeks. First week, weather wasn't great, but the second week was absolutely amazing and well worth the efforts to getting up early to go and shoot St Michael's Mount, getting up early to shoot here, and obviously the other shoots that I've done, the sunset that I had here, getting down onto the, for the first shoot, onto the actual rocks and exploring those rocks was absolutely amazing. I still can't get over how much the water comes in here and how deep those sort of chasms and crevasses are around there, if that's actually what you call them. But anyway, what an amazing experience. And going to Botanic Mines as well, it's the location that you see so many people shoot, and one of those key locations that I've always dreamt of going to shoot and trying to take some images at. And I was so super pleased that I was able to get out to Botanic Mines, because yeah, it's one of those gems, those photographic gems that you really want to go and shoot, those key locations. And yeah, absolutely super pleased that I was able to get there as well. Hopefully you've enjoyed the content that I've created over my time here in Cornwall. I have got a separate sort of link on my YouTube channel for all of the vlogs that I've done over the years in Cornwall, so please obviously make sure you check out that playlist. As obviously I've got my last year's trips down to North Cornwall on there as well, so if you obviously want to watch any more for locations to come to shoot, so in and around the Cornwall area. I know that there's a lot better vloggers out there, a lot better photographers out there that produce better quality images, better quality vlogs as well, that will be able to give you a bit more location advice. But hey ho, that's my contribution that I've made. And yeah, what more can I say with this fantastic location here? If you have enjoyed it, please make sure you give it a thumbs up. Leave us a comment as well, as I absolutely love those comments, and that's really inspiring to get these comments. Please consider subscribing if you haven't subscribed already. And until next time, when who knows where I'll be, take care.